Hey there, Holly Show listeners. We continue our run of pre-pandemic interviews with the creator of Demon Bitch, Christie Shinn. Christie talks about her creative journey, why she created Demon Bitch, her recent health scare, and more. Loved having her on, and I always look forward to seeing her in person since she's so fun to talk to. Be sure to check out her lunch hour live stream as well. Enjoy. Hello, Holly Chill listeners. On this episode, I get a chance to talk to someone who I've only met twice, but I feel like I've known for a long time. The creator of Demon Bitch, Christie Shinn. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me on there.
And it's true. It's like I believe I've only met you twice, but it seems like I've known you for like a long time. I don't know why.
I have a feeling like a lot of people like get that feeling from me. Maybe that's why they like want to talk to me about a lot of stuff. Like seriously, Demon Bitch, like you look on it, it's a mean fucking petty comic.
Uh-huh.
But the funny thing is that like it actually lets people open up and they talk to me about all sorts of stuff that they've been through, which is kind of cool and amazing. But at the same time, you're just like, wow, really? All this shit happened to you. But sometimes what ended up happening is that I actually got diagnosed with a 6-inch pancreatic mass. I wasn't feeling very good. I wasn't like on death's door, but I thought I had a kidney infection. And then I go in and then they do basically an ultrasound to a CAT scan, and they find a 6-inch pancreatic mass. And apparently this targets Asian women and Black women, this particular one.
Wow.
And yeah, it's racist. But anyway, but the thing is that like it would have grown some more, but I was told in another 10 years it would have 100% been cancerous.
Oh wow! But so when they biopsied it, it wasn't cancerous yet.
No. It's one of those ones that is slow growing. Like it doesn't, according to my doctors, it was not something that acts like a typical cancer. Now, I'm not an oncologist. I do not claim to be anything like that, and then become malignant, depending on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was in the benign stage. And, but the thing is, it was that type of growth that would have, it's 100% would have been a cancer if it had been allowed to stay in my body. It might have taken another 10 years, but it would have done it. But it was causing me a lot of misery because I think the mass, like they say, pancreatic tumors, you will lose a lot of weight. You will become jaundiced as a result because it will interfere with your liver. None of that happened, but my digestion was off. I had more indigestion. I would have a beer and it would make me want to throw up. And that was very, very weird to me. But overall, it kind of drained me. Like I got really tired. I had a lot of weight gain and I never understood that. But now I realize, it's probably because of that. And I think the surgeon and even the oncologist were thinking, and I'm going to see an oncologist because, you have a tumor. Well, we got to watch it now. So, but they're very, very sure that it's never going to come back. But, just out of precaution, they were going to screen me, looks like every 6 months.
Right. You probably have to do blood tests every so often, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly what it entails. Even I talked to my oncologist recently, and first we were putting it for April of next year. Mm-hmm. But now he's like, you can even do it to May because, to be honest, like that, he talked to a few other specialists and they don't really study that tumor too much anymore because it's pretty predictable what it does. But I did talk to them and they said that it probably was growing in me several years beforehand. Mm-hmm. It could have been even 10 years. And that's when I kind of that's when I, like looking back, this is Monday morning quarterbacking, but looking back, it's like, yeah, some stuff really changed. And according to the surgeon and according to everybody else, I'm recovering a lot better than what they expected me to. Mm-hmm. They managed to save 30% of my pancreas, but they really thought I was going to be diabetic, which I am not.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Speaking of change, and we sort of exchanged war stories because as some of our listeners know, I've had thyroid cancer. Yeah. So I think it's about I'm going on my 9 years anniversary of being cancer free. But
that's good.
Yeah, and so I know that changed my outlook on life. I mean, how did it change your life, knowing that you were going through this?
I think people, they kind of go through this thing where they have this misconception, and I'm not saying that it isn't true, but I think our experiences are as varied as people. Like if you're a person that's known to rush, certain experiences will make you realize, okay, I need to take a step back and like not fucking try to rush everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's other people that, they take all the time in the world and they're dragging their heels and they're just like, oh my God, oh my God. Now it's like they have to experience stuff. For me, I mean, I think a near-death experience, I mean, I felt kind of weird for the longest time saying I had a near-death experience because I was like, well, it was going to take a while before it would actually kill me. But the thing is, it would have killed me if I hadn't found it. So, or really screwed me up. But I would say that for me, it was more of like, I was like pushing hard. And there's nothing wrong with that. And also doing as much as I could to get things going. And then this has made me take a step back and people would pressure me about all sorts of shit. And then I realized like, I don't need to listen to you and my time is limited and I'm going to take the time I need to take for me.
Right.
Now, if I feel compelled to rush, I will. If I don't, I don't. And it's made me kind of not take advice that doesn't resonate with me easier. And it's made me not really buy into a lot of people's stuff. Like people I notice tend to rush you. People I notice tend to kind of give you advice that they really either don't follow themselves or that really doesn't enrich their life.
Right.
They'll try to pressure you to do things and it's like, well, why should I do this? This doesn't work for me and this is not what I want to do. So it's made me kind of realize I have all the time I need to do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also too, I'm still technically recovering. I mean, I've been told by other people, other doctors, that it may take 6 months up to a year. Some other doctors say 3 to 4 months. I would say probably I'm kind of between the 3 to 4 month and 6 months to a year thing. I do feel like on the up and up, my energy has gotten better, but there are just times I'm going to have days where I'm just tired because, I'm recovering. It was major surgery. Like essentially what they had to do with this procedure is not only take out a good chunk of my pancreas, but because the pancreas's circulatory system was connected to the lower part of my stomach, your pylorus valve and duodenum, they had to remove that or else my stomach would have been necrotic. So, I mean, that's not what and then they had to remove the gallbladder because not that there was anything wrong, but they had to rewire everything.
Right.
So they had to rewire everything and put everything to my small intestine. And that is the weirdest feeling where you feel your contents are shifting around because you're used to it digesting a certain way. And then, first of all, you're really sore because they cut and pieced you back together. And then now it's like your body has to get used to digesting again.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just kind of tiring at times. Like even digesting is tiring at times to me, because, and the thing is that you really have to ask your doctors all the questions because also another thing, when I go back to the advice, a lot of people are saying, oh, all you can drink is you can't eat fat or something. I'm like, my doctor's never said any of that. It's like they just said, acclimate, go as you see fit, what works for you. And they're already really impressed of how I'm healing. So I'm just like, well, okay,
That's pretty good. I mean, we were talking a little bit before the podcast, and you ate some pretty good food, I guess, yesterday, right?
Yeah, I ate some lobster congee at this one place. One of my favorite places, oysters, raw oysters. It's really good. They actually have pretty good tacos, which is weird because I love Mexican food. I can eat Chinese food and Japanese food. I can eat spicy food, but right now Mexican food's a challenge, which is weird. Even Mexican-esque food, like Taco Bell. You wouldn't think that, but that kind of messes with me a little. But
oh, wow, interesting.
But really, I've just been told, like, give yourself time, be patient, Like, so for the most part, I can digest fine. They actually had to put a feeding tube in me because they were worried that I was, just on the distinct possibility if I could not hold down solid food and I would be throwing up. And it's like, apparently that's happened before with people, but I didn't do that. I actually was not leaking because they have one side that measures, because they have to drain you. You have to have drainage tubes. And on the left-hand side, they had to make sure my bile was draining okay. And it wasn't leaking. And over a certain level, it would be considered leaking. And I wasn't even there. And the other one was the pancreatic enzymes, the right-hand side. And that didn't happen. So it was good. But I mean, sometimes just even the actual digesting tires me out sometimes. Like I'll eat a bunch of food and it's like, oh, I'm tired.
Well, I'm glad you're on the road to recovery. I mean, you looked good when I saw you at Golden Apple Comics a few weeks ago for their Halloween event.
Yeah.
It was so awesome to see you out and about.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've just been working on it. Like, it's just I work out kind of every other day, but you kind of like know when you're in recovery, you kind of have an idea like when you're starting to push too hard and not. Like you can get a little sore, but it's like every day, like you kind of have to push the limits a little bit. But I wouldn't
Hmm.
recommend like, oh, if I'm, really, if I'm really tired, I'm going to give myself a break. Like,
Right.
you just got to. And since I'm ahead of the curve, that's great. But I still want to make sure I'm not doing that. Like I don't want to put to the point where I wear myself out. It's just not good.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into your little video live show that you have going on called Lunch Hour. But I watched a couple episodes, and one of them that you're talking about exactly that, about scaling back a little bit and taking a break. Because I think you said that you're asking your audience whether you should do just lunch hours once or twice a week.
Yeah, and that was before I was diagnosed. And
Right. Right. Exactly.
yes, so right now, I mean, I wanted to get back in it this month, but I've been just kind of tired and just getting back into life. So I'm actually thinking of resuming that next year when I'm a bit more energetic.
Hmm.
So it's just like, you just got to adjust. Like your life is your life. So you have to adjust how you've got to do it. And sometimes, real life is not exactly what you anticipate it's going to be. Like I thought I would be past this because I was feeling good and everything. But the problem is that when I did it, it was like, oh, I'm kind of tired.
Cool. Why don't we go into your origin story? Where did you grow up, and what were you into when you were younger?
I was, I, I actually was born in Chicago,
Uh huh.
Illinois, and I went ahead and um, was there until like I was a few years old. We lived in, I think, a Jewish neighborhood, Skokie. That's what I heard it was Jewish. I'm not that affiliated with Chicago because I was only a kid.
Hmm.
But what I did was is that I ended up, um, we ended up moving to Northern California in Hayward, and then later on when I grew up a little bit more, we went to Cupertino, and I went to college in UC Santa Barbara. Stayed there for a little bit. And then I stayed there to try to make a life in Santa Barbara. Didn't work. And then I got laid off on my job in Santa Barbara. And then I said, well, fuck it. I'm going to go to LA. So I went down to LA and started a life there. I mean, this was during the economic, like when the economy in 2007, 2009, that area, it was really
Right.
bad. And
Sure.
so I did all sorts of different things. Like I thought maybe I'll just pursue acting. I have nothing else to lose. But I just ended up focusing on art and then more on comics. I'd always been in comics, but it was just never the right time for me at doing comics. Then I just started doing comics, and it was really pretty good. Like people really liked it. So, I mean, right now so far it's been doing really well. Getting my name out there, trying to monetize the thing, but it seems like live shows are my best because when I go
Hmm.
out there, people like really like talking to me and everything. So, and I like talking to them, you know.
Oh yeah, I can definitely tell. I mean, we struck up pretty lengthy conversations in the last few times I saw you.
Yeah, yeah. It's like also like almost dying. You kind of have this. It's kind of like this weird thing. Like it's not a club. I don't want to say club like it's an exclusive thing, but it's like when you go through where you almost die or could have died, it kind of changes you, and it's weird because it changes you. And you can refute me on this. I mean, you had thyroid cancer. Experience was is that you just appreciate things more, which sounds cheesy, but you appreciate them in the way that's deeper. Like you take each moment as itself. And I don't know if I'd say I take each moment as my last, just I'm more appreciative of it. And I'm more appreciative of me. I'm more appreciative of my body. I'm more appreciative of the decisions I make so I can take my time to make the decisions I make without being pressured that if it's the right decision or good decision by other people. I mean, I figure if as long as I'm not smoking crack or methamphetamine, I'm okay. So,
Hmm. Yeah, looking back and trying to think about how I was feeling at the time, you know, I had thyroid cancer, and they all said, a lot of people, the doctors and my oncologists, and people who've had thyroid cancer, they said, if you were going to get cancer, thyroid cancer is the one you would want because, the survival rate is so high.
Mm.
I mean, kids that are in hospitals who have worse cancers than mine. With that in mind, I doubled down on a lot of things that I was doing. From that point forward, I tried my best not to take things for granted. So.
Yeah. For me, it was weird because I went through a period of time, so when they first told me, they said, we found a 6-inch mass that worries us. And they even printed up the report. And then when they found out it was in my pancreas, they said, we are concerned that this is cancerous and this is malignant. We strongly believe it. You never want to hear that, especially in your fucking pancreas. That's like the worst one. So you're thinking here, the first thought is am I going to die like Patrick Swayze? Yeah, which sounds really dark, respectful, but it passes through your head because he was one of the, other than Alex Trebek, he was the other person that I knew of I didn't know him personally, but you get what I mean, dying of the disease. And you're just like, fuck, am I going to die that way? So your mind does go there briefly. And I think when you go and you say shit, and then you get to this weird existential phase where no matter how many people love you or care about you, in some way you're going at this alone. And I'm not saying that love and care don't matter. It's good, but no one else goes through it but you in that moment. What I mean is that you will feel it and you will experience it yourself. I was going if I have to go through chemo, I have to feel this. I have to go through this mentally and physically alone. No one else is in my body. I also was going if I get cut up, to do this, I will have to go through this alone. If I die, I will go through the process of dying alone in this term of feeling it and going through it mentally as a person dying. The people around you will feel it in a way, but that is different for them. That's kind of the second or third person. And again, I'm not discounting that. It's just in this moment when you're sitting there and you're like, holy shit, So, and you're thinking, and I did all the things, I prayed and everything. I know that disturbed some people, but this is just my experience. And what I literally had to do was take a step back mentally off the edge of the cliff. And I was like, okay, let's say if I have a feeling I don't have cancer, let's assume right now, I do not have cancer. This didn't mean I had to go home and pretend I didn't. I was just going to treat it right now. I don't have cancer because I don't have the answer. So let's just do that. I don't have cancer. And later on, because I just did not want to focus my energy towards I have cancer. I know that might seem cheesy to people and all that, some of the people that say, well, you shouldn't focus. I think it does help if you focus on the positive. So at that moment, I chose not to focus. I have cancer? I didn't know I had cancer. So I said, let's not focus on that. And it was funny because my sister's husband's brother, he's an oncologist, and he actually later on, because I texted my sister and my parents, I talked to them. I talked to my sister and my mother. And I had texted my sister a photo of their diagnosis at the time. This is before the biopsy or anything. And she came back. She said, yeah, just don't worry about it. He said, don't worry about it. Do not worry about it until after the biopsy. So I'm like, okay. So really kind of quote unquote, forget about it. I was stuck at the hospital. They were going to do what they needed to do. So I might as not, quote unquote, worry about it. And if you worry about it, if you're not me and you worry about it, it's okay. You're going to worry about it. It's a big thing, but I just had to literally put it in the back of my head and said, I can't think about this right now. It was going to be dealt with. It was going to be taken care of. And then the next few days, the surgeon looked at me and said, you need to take this out. The surgeon was very good. Dr. Carvajal was very good. He was apparently a fucking genius because he took a 10-hour operation, I later found out, and reduced it to 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's from first cut on their timer, first cut to closing up. Took 3 hours. So he's really good. But if this had to happen, I view it as that everything lined up where I got the best care. So I'm very eternally grateful for Glendale's dentist. They're very, very patient oriented. And I think that's okay. People are down on religious hospitals, and I understand. But at least with that vision of that hospital, they were very so much of taking care of the patient and nurturing their well-being, both mentally and physically. And I think that's important.
You said the Glendale Adventist?
Glendale Adventist,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
They literally took me from the emergency room in Glendale Memorial straight to Glendale Adventist
Okay.
in an ambulance. It wasn't like hurried. They just transported me there, and due to insurance, I could not leave the hospital. But that was a good thing because it got taken care of that week.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 weeks, like it took a day or two in between, because if I left, my insurance would have just said it would have been taking longer, and we're not doing that. But the surgeon Dr. Carvajal said to me, like, well, and he showed me the CAT scan, and it looked like my pancreas puked everywhere. And,
oh my gosh.
and yeah, it was nasty. I mean, I have a picture of it. I can send it to you, but it's like literally the healthy part of my pancreas was called, which basically was crushed in between two organs. So they were worried that I was not going to have full functionality. That's why he said, chances are you will most likely be diabetic. That was hard to take in, because it's like, and again, it's not down on people with diabetes, but diabetes is hard to manage, and depending on what you have. And it's literally, it seems to me that you have to really consider what you eat, because it could be poisonous to you, literally, because your digestion is compromised. And I went, okay, well, I guess I'll have to do that. I guess I'll have to do this, blah, blah, blah. I was a little bit, I had to deal with the fact that I would be diabetic. I'm not going to be ashamed that I said, to say that I cried a few times. That was kind of fucked, but you just got to go with that and deal with that and learn from that. I mean, I might sound like I'm being repetitive, but yeah. And I just kind of resolved to myself, I'm not going to be diabetic, and I'm not. That ended up happening. I just focused on not being diabetic. I mean, people can like poo-poo that or whatever, but what harm does it mean? What a harm is it if you just say, I will not be diabetic, and you work towards that? Like within like the first or second day after surgery, my blood sugar levels went back to normal.
That's good.
That's how hard my pancreas wanted to really have me do it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the digestion is still a touch and go. I would say I'm 70, 80% there. Mm-hmm. The rest of it is time. I really just time. That's what I have to do. I mean, I do have enough energy to walk. I do have enough energy to get stuff done, but there are just some days I'm tired, and that's it. That's okay.
So you said you had 30% of your pancreas left?
30% of my pancreas left, yes.
And are there any foods that you can't eat that you know of?
The only thing that they said that I absolutely cannot do is drink alcohol.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, I can eat stuff with alcohol in it as long as it's cooked. I mean, when you cook out the alcohol, it's fine. Yeah. Like, so rum cake, and if you cook the rum, you're good. Mm-hmm. But I do not, like to drink alcohol, it's not a good thing. And I understand, like I'm operating on 30%, but even then, I think the doctor had mentioned that if you do, it's extreme happen. I just didn't want to do any of the things that, people do, like drink, smoke, whatever. I'm just like, okay, it's fine. I look at it as I'm not diabetic. I'm healthy. So, okay. At least I remember what it's like to drink alcohol. So if I need to get good booze for my friends, I know what to do. Like I'll know, like, oh, okay, smell this. I know this is good. I'll get it to them. But drinking, it's just I can't do anymore.
Right.
Which is okay.
I mean, do you miss it at all, or no? Or is that too soon?
It's weird. Like I don't feel tempted to go. Like the restaurant I went to that was really good that I was telling you about. They had a lot of good beer. They had a lot of good alcohol. On one level, in a way, it does kind of, I miss it. Like, it's nice to have a drink, to be able to just do that. But mm-hmm. I don't miss it. Like, I don't crave it, Mm-hmm. I don't.
It's more of a social thing than maybe.
Yeah, like
right?
I was more of a social drinker. Like I'd go and have drinks with my friends or colleagues or something. And that's fine, but I mean, I'm at the age now where it's like, nobody's going to give me shit for not drinking. I mean, they'll be like, whatever.
Right.
They're just happy to, I mean, it was kind of amazing because it's like the people that came up to me when they found out I was at LA Comic Con, they were like, we are so happy that you're alive. And it didn't really occur to me because I think I was too busy dealing with it. That, mm-hmm. I mean, it's weird because it's like, I haven't really panicked that much. I mean, they say like, oh, after a year, you'll feel it. After a year, it'll hit you. I know on an intellectual level, I've gone through major surgery, but I never really felt like going out of my way to like really go, oh, I have surgery. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I haven't, either it hasn't hit me yet or, you know, like the day before I had to have this surgery, I was like, well, just get the fucking thing out of me. Let's just be done with this, you know? I mean, if I'm diabetic, I'm diabetic, you know, oh well.
Right.
I think what it is that you just deal with your frustrations and everything shitty right at that moment and the best you can. You know, if people ask me, how'd you go through this? I just went through it. I don't think there's anything else that that prepares you. You either do it or you don't. And I mean, the surgeon, one of the poignant things he told me is that you need to get this out of you. Way of saying that, right? I mean, it's just really, it just isn't. Because he said there was a woman that I knew that had the exact same thing that you did. And 10 years ago, I begged her to take it out. She did not listen to me. Now she's fighting stage 3 pancreatic cancer. I'm like, well, fuck that. I'd rather have my odds very good and close to 100%. So I went with this. And the thing is, he was happy after it was done. So if you have a happy surgeon, that's a good thing. So I don't know. I mean, he and his whole team gave me a hug when I went, because they said, we have never seen anybody recover as fast as you have. I was kind of shocked because I think he told me there was a guy around my age who had it done, but the dude was 400 pounds. So it's like, well, okay, you know, that's kind of more of a risk. I am nowhere near close to that weight, but, you know. And also, you know, it's weird. It's an adjustment because your stomach is at half capacity now. So it's like my brain connecting with that sensation had to take some time. And it was difficult for the first month because, I mean, you're all sore. They cut you up. They put you back together. And even though I could eat solid foods, like what I wanted to eat did not coincide with what I could eat. And, you know, on the mount. And then I was just, there were times I thought to myself, I could have been anorexic because eating was really that painful sometimes. It wasn't the actual eating in my mouth, but swallowing it and going down and digesting, because they had to flush me out with antibiotics. My flora wasn't good. So just having a new system, it was really painful. And I'm anorexic if I have an aversion to food. Because, you know, they have there's different types of anorexia. But it's like there was a lot of, and I hated it. It was the most miserable time because I love to eat. I love good food. And something preventing me from doing it, at least that moment, it just sucked. I mean, I didn't throw up, but there were times it just hurt so bad. But you just have to take it one day at a time. You know, luckily the doctor did recommend you do need to take nutritive shakes. So I did that, and that helped a lot because it's like sometimes even though you want to eat, you can't because it hurts. Your system hurts, and it's tired, and it's needing to deal with that. So
cool. Let's go back to a time period before drinking, when I guess when you were younger, and like kind of go back and tell our audience about some of the comic books that you used to read back then.
Oh, Love and Rockets. It's kind of funny. I'm glad to say that a lot of the comics I used to read, I actually met the creators and I become friendly with some of them, if not friends. So I met Carlos Saldana. I got Burrito when I was in college. I got to meet him. Very nice man. Now he tags me in a lot of stuff like that he does. Like he just says, hey, I did this page. So I would get in everything because, you know, I like his work. He's a sweet old man and he does that. And Jaime Hernandez, I met Beto Hernandez, Gilberto Hernandez. Gilberto, right? Yeah, Beto. Sorry, I'm trying to get that straightened out. So I met Jaime Hernandez, Gilbert Hernandez. They're both really cool. I'm trying to think of other people. So I read Love and Rockets and and I think Moldovar. That's the no. I'm trying to remember what that. Let me look it up on Wikipedia. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, Hernandez brothers. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just trying to figure out like what it was. It was like Love and Rockets. And then what's even kind of weirder too is that the characters aged at the same rate I aged. And I was talking to Jaime Hernandez. I'm like, man, like I'm Maggie's age. And we're like not 20 anymore. And it's just weird how that happens. Let me see here. I'm trying to find out what the hell this is. Gilbert is really nice. Oh, Palomar. Palomar. They have that one too. So Palomar / Heartbreak Hotel and Love and Rockets is what I read.
Okay.
I would love to meet Adam Warren. He did Dirty Pair. He
Oh.
wrote that with Torrance Smith,
Okay.
the American version of Dirty Pair, the comics. And then they did Bubblegum Crisis. I got into that a little bit, but I really got into Dirty Pair. And I got into the Japanese version of Dirty Pair. There's Otomo. He did Akira. My dream is to buy all the fucking graphic novels of Akira when I hit it big, and just have that there so I can just read through and read the whole story of Akira. And I think he's coming out with another film of Akira too. I wouldn't say it's a sequel. They said it's not a sequel, it's a continuation.
Oh, okay. I have to look into that.
I know that's weird because a sequel is kind of a continuation, but I think it's just a continuation of the story because it's a big story. So there's that. And then there's Nausicaa. I grew up with that, like the Nausicaa comic, Nausicaa Studio Ghibli comics. But it's like, I don't know if the manga came first or it came after the movie, but I read Nausicaa. I'm trying to think of other things. I've also read Matsume Shiro. He's most famously known for Ghost in the Shell, but he did Dominion and he did Appleseed.
Oh, yeah.
So I used to read Appleseed. And I got into Ghost in the Shell a little bit, but it was more of Appleseed. I remember him doing that. I'm thinking what else I did. I like Mermaid Scar. She did Yurotse Yatsura. Rumiko Takahashi. She did a lot of other ones. She actually does a lot of good horror comics too.
Oh, wow.
Like Mermaid's Promise, like the Mermaid Saga, like Mermaid Saga, Mermaid Scar, Mermaid's Promise. Like they're all a story about the mermaid legends in Japan. And then I grew up with a lot of manhwa. Now that's Korean comic books. So there's manga is Japanese, manhwa is Korean.
Right.
So they have that. Manhwa is actually on the rise now. Webtoon, they have a lot of manhwa on there too.
I mean, if they first started out as traditionally Korean.
Yeah, it's Line. Line is a Korean company. But yeah, you have that. So it's just really kind of neat how things are. So it's just weird. I'm kind of amazed at how far it's gone. But it's weird how I've met a lot of the people that I've kind of quote unquote grown up, even though I was like a teenager in my 20s reading this stuff. But, I just look at that and I'm just really amazed at how crazy it is on that level. So
I'm curious to sort of compare and contrast. What are you reading now that you can recommend to our audience?
I like Lore Olympus. They just got picked up by Jim Henson's company for, I don't know if it's an animated series. They didn't have much detail when I last read it. It's hard because I haven't had time to read it or really watch movies because the same part of my brain that does that, I take up by doing artwork. So I'm like watching cat videos and shit. So I'm kind of the most boring person ever. But I like Lore Olympus. They're mostly webcomics. Lore Olympus, House of Stars. That's a good one. That's about fairy tales. It's kind of like along the lines of a zombie genre, but it's not really. It's like people go into a monster, sort of like some of them turn into monsters, and it's like their own most insecurities and awful things. And after a while, like some of the characters die off, and I started getting really kind of depressed. So, like the thing is that it's good. I'm not saying Sweet Home is bad. It's good, but it's too good in some ways. It's like so dreary. I have to take a break.
So it's sort of like when Glenn dies in Walking Dead, right?
Yeah, like Walking Dead, it's good. Don't get me wrong, Walking Dead's great, but it's like after a while, people doing such fucked up things to each other, you just have to stop for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the comic book Crossed. Like you can only read that once in a while. If anybody doesn't know, Crossed is this comic where people, they get this disease, and then the cross like goes up, like a line goes in front of their eyes, and then the line goes down their face, like they have a cross, and it makes them do the most depraved, awful things. Like a regular person will turn into a pedophilic child rapist that kills kids in the worst way. Like that's how messed up it is. It's a really good series, or it turns like a regular bunch of guys into a bunch of rapists that don't care who they fuck. It's very, very fucked up. It's good how they write it, but it's not something you want to read all the time. Like seriously, it's not a series. So it's like you just sort of want to read that once and kind of take a shower and not look at it for a while.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's messed up. It is really messed up. So that's there's that. I mean, occasionally I read some of the big two stuff. I'm more into the Batman individual graphic novels and stories. It's kind of interesting how they go into the psychological aspect of Batman, like Killing Joke, I think is brilliantly written. I liked reading the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen towards women anyway. You kind of have to make it believable, but he does write strong characters like Mina Murray, aka Mina Harker. Despite the fact she's a Victorian woman, she's very strong. Like, he actually writes her very well. So it's like, I think people don't take in context what the time period is, because it is a period piece for that particular series. I know it goes up to the 1960s, but pretty sure I think they've written it up to the modern. But they take pop culture. They take pop culture icons and put them into a group. So I think that's interesting. So those are good comics that I've read. I like stuff by Fantagraphics overall. I like Johnny Ryan. He writes the most disgusting, awful shit. And it makes me laugh, like really messed up stuff about poo and vomit and, finished up Prison Pit. Prison Pit's fucking great. I love Prison Pit. And it's just a bunch of really awful, awful convicts on this shell of a planet. And it's in this awful, negative, barren zone. But it's the funniest thing ever, and I like it. So I just think it's funny when we were laughing about that. So I just start laughing. It's like so bad that you start laughing. Mm-hmm. I like Buckator. I forgot who it was written by. That's just like trashy, pulp, disgusting comics. I've read some Bitchy Bitch. I haven't gotten that much, but I've read like Cynical Man. That's like the most random comics ever. So it's just like I'll pick up like indies like here and there and take a look at it and start laughing. But the most prominent indies, and also like my friend Lawrence, Real Deal Comics. I think you met him over at Golden Apple. He wasn't signing there. He just came by.
Oh yeah, I met him. Yeah.
Yeah, but he reads. He basically writes Real Deal Comics, and it's like shit about fucked up people in the ghetto. It's just every time anything fucked up happens, we just start laughing like Real Deal. People do crazy shit to each other and everything. It's like, it's really funny, and it's just like the worst people ever. But you start laughing at the horrible shit that they do, and it's funny because I think you start laughing because it's just so cartoonishly messed up and bad. But you just can't believe people are like that in general. Mm-hmm. And I think that's sort of the same thing with Johnny Ryan. Like he'll draw something, but it's kind of like he's trolling you. He's like fucking with you. So I think comics like that where they just actually dare to do something weird and messed up and kind of poke at you, I really like those. I also appreciate good stories too.
Right. Let's talk about your stuff. I mean, your transition from Santa Barbara to LA, and I think your first book was Personal Monsters, a Compendium of Monstrosities of Personality, right?
Yeah, I moved to LA, and I was friends with some people. Some of them I'm still friends with. The other people, like, they just turned out to be assholes. So I went ahead and I just said, fuck y'all. So I wrote and drew a book about them that was mean and angry because they were mean and angry and asshole-ish to me, and I just didn't like that. So I didn't talk to them, but people were telling me, oh, you should just get over it. And that made me even more mad. I'm just like, I am trying to get over it, but they're jerks. They did some pretty shitty things. So I went ahead and I just started messing. And so I just wrote and drew the mean and nastiest shit. Didn't put their names to it. And that made me feel better.
Do you think if they read your stuff, they would know who it is?
I think some of them do. I think one of them threatened to sue me. And then I was like, okay, well, your name's not in it. And it's with a bunch of fucked up looking people. You want to own up to that? And thirdly, like, it's like you need a retainer to have a lawyer, and that's not the shit that you got in your mouth other than cock since you were 15. So that's how like I was just like, okay, you can be mad about it, but like I didn't put your name on it. I didn't say it was you. So you can go ahead and like think about that, Maybe you should change. Maybe that's why you won't feel so sensitive about it anymore. So
now, this was back in, I think, 2009?
No, it's actually 2015. 2015.
Oh.
2009, I moved down to California.
Oh, okay.
Moved down to LA.
Okay, so you didn't create Personal Monsters?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it.
After living in LA, and it's just like kind of coming to terms with my anger and coming to terms with stuff and how I was treated and how people behaved. I'm not trying to say, well, everybody treated me horribly. It's not that, but I think, when you get older, when you go through life, you go back and reevaluate how people treat you. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think you need to change some things inside of yourself in terms of, are you going to stand for it or not? What type will you choose to hang out with? And, just what you're willing to accept. And that's different. I just noticed three principles in line is something what you need to self-evaluate throughout your life. I don't know if it's every 10 years. I don't know if it's every 5 years or something, but that happened to me a few times. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what I care about. This is what I don't care about. I used to care about this, but now I don't give a shit about it anymore. And I think that changes throughout your life, you know, like I would do this and, well, you know, I used to do that and that didn't work. Well, why don't I do it completely different? And it actually does work. So, you know.
Now, talk to me about Demon Bitch. How did that project come about? Like, is it sort of like a progression from Personal Monsters?
Yeah, it's in the same personal universe, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's about shitheads. I would say it was based on some girls I really hated. So, and again, I have some really good girlfriends. Women tend to be really shitty to each other. You know, they go on and on about how men are terrible and all this. But my attitude is like, you know, you women are pretty terrible too. And what I would have to say is that if I was, the thing is that for me to view women to be treated as equals, I think if you want to be treated equal, you're going to have to accept the fact that some people in your gender are shitty as fuck. You know, and then there's some people in your gender that are actually pretty cool. Like, you're just people, right?
Yeah.
And I know some people will come down on me a bit of it, but it's like, yeah, like a lot of women come up to me of the Demon Bitch comic and they agree with me. They're like, a lot of women treat each other like shit. Like, I've been fucked over more by women than men ever. And I think women tend to try to control each other and tear each other down sometimes. And I don't like it, you know. And, you know, we don't have this thing where we listen to each other and then we go like, okay, well, that's what you think. I may agree to disagree. And I think that's okay, you know. We're all not going to be the same. But there's this weird clique sometimes in women where they kind of ostracize each other, or it's like if they're in a group, they say, we all want to be inclusive, but that means that everybody has to think and feel the same and agree with each other and, you know, help each other's feelings. And I'm just like, okay, but there's a certain point where you can agree to disagree and you don't need to be dicks.
Right.
But that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think not being a dick is definitely, people should really think about, especially when you're trying to sell your books. Right.
Well, yeah, and I find it funny that some women, I mean, like most women are actually okay, but if I ever get somebody that really hates my work, like that is just really like virulently angry. Sorry, I'm looking at something. Virulently angry. I mean, ever since my illness, it's like clutter for me is bad. Like I didn't realize how sick I was, and then some clutter got in my house. Now I wasn't a hoarder house, so if you hear me ripping something off, I found something to get rid of. But I guess it's like whenever I've had whenever I've had people really mad at me. I mean, there's people that hated the work, and that's fine. You know, I view as an artist that people, if either they love or hate your work, you did something, you won. Because I've had people that say, I hate her work, you know, I hate this comic, you know, I can't relate to it. But then they'll speak for over a half an hour to an hour about it, which is hilarious. It's like, you're telling me that I'm like not hitting the mark with my comedic hits, or I'm not making a good joke and the comic sucks and it's not up to par, but yet you're talking for an hour about it afterwards. Well, it did stick in your mind for something. So, I mean, if they just looked at it and said, yeah, whatever, and they ignored it, that's fine. But it's like if I have such a strong reaction, like one guy looked at it, he read the book's $20, and he says, well, it's not worth 20. I'm like, okay. But it's like you had to say something like an asshole shit, and I think it's funny. It's like I created an IP where, you know, even if people are assholes to me, I still win. Because it's like, well, it pissed you off that much, huh? You know?
So what's your elevator pitch for Demon Bitch?
Oh, there's a couple. What I did was that I said, it's a low-level demon from the 13th pit of hell where people throw their dog shit in gum wrappers. And she wants to bring the second coming of Armageddon, but the first one never happened because she is dumb. The next one is, this is based on some chicks I hate.
Okay, yeah.
Like, you want to read? They can read it.
I think that's the pitch that you gave to me when I first met you.
Yeah. I was like, want to read a book about some girl I hated? You know? And people like get shocked because they're like, you need to be the better person. You need to be like, admit the fact that you hate someone. It's okay. You know, I think it's better if you say that and, you know, you deal with being angry about it, you know. Women that are in the book, or because I don't put their names in it. I just draw and write their stupid shit because they actually did those things. It's like some people go like, well, I can't believe that this really happened. That's really weird. I said, believe me, that shit happened. That person actually said that.
So I was curious. I was going to ask you this: is each character, you know, a person, or are they sort of an amalgam of people?
It's well, with personal monsters, all of them are amalgamations of different people. Like one person can be five different monsters.
Okay.
But for Demon Bitch, each person is kind of like each character is like a person.
Mm.
I would say Tammy Pond is not a person. She was one of my friends passed away last year, and he was part of Fugly, and that kind of taught me how to deal with the internet. And if you don't know, they did a lot of prank stuff with people on the. They basically taught me that if somebody's an asshole to you on the internet, have fun with it.
Oh, got it.
You can laugh at them,
Uh-huh.
and this is how you can do it. And also, like, if people hate on you, it's just kind of more funny than everything because you can turn it into something positive, strangely enough. But but yeah, so my friend Cheese Dog, he passed away last year, but one of the greatest gifts he gave me was Tammy Pond, amongst also learning how to deal with assholes on the internet. And he just came up with this really fucked up story, and we were laughing. So Tammy Pond is a used tampon made from like that was deposited by an old hooker, and Demon Bitch's dad got bored, and he forgot a present for Demon Bitch, so he just brought Tammy Pond to life as a friend. And ironically, Tammy Pond is the only character that's not a piece of shit. She gets beaten up by the other characters, though.
So is that a reflection of you?
I don't know if it's a reflection of me. I don't view myself as a used tampon. Irony, I guess. But at the same time, maybe like being treated like a used tampon. Like, but I think like a lot of people go through that stage, like in their 20s, like they tolerate behavior that they really shouldn't until they hit like older, and they're like, wait a minute, why the fuck am I dealing with this? You know, some,
Right.
you know, I think we've all been through that, like where we've kind of been treated not very nicely by other people, and then we hit a later point in life, we're like, why did I allow myself to be treated that way?
Mm, right.
So it's just like you kind of go through it. I think it's like just Tammy Pond is an indicative of, you know, I think we've all had some sort of shitty friend that we took more than we should have. And I knew people would try to shame me about that, but I'm like thinking, you know, everybody goes through that shit, and the people that would shame me still go through it. So it's like this weird misplaced anger about shit they should really take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed people project a lot lately, and I find it quite amusing. Way like they tell me you should do this because I would be stupid if I didn't, and I look at their life and they're doing the same shit that they tell me I should do, and it doesn't work for them, and I'm like, okay, so I don't do it, and so I'm just like, all right, I'm sure that works for you.
Now, did you major in art in college?
Yes, I did art and film
Okay.
in UC Santa Barbara. Yeah.
Awesome. And well, it's good to see that you're using that. You know, to there's a lot of people that do art, but they don't get a chance to sort of make that a reality in their livelihood. So that leads me to my next question about entrepreneurship. You know, talking to you when I see you at shows, I mean, you're so easy to talk to. Is that something that has come natural to you?
I always enjoy talking to people. I'm a very social person. I would say, I mean, you probably didn't notice the difference, but like ever since my surgery, I've been more introspective, but it's just more of energy,
Mm-hmm.
like just energy. It's not like disliking talking to people. Lately, I've been more self-contemplative, but at shows, I do like talking to people. Um, I enjoy hearing their experiences. I enjoy hearing their feedback about my work. Most of the time, people are really happy when I've worked on stuff, and they're like, wow, you know, you're really insightful and stuff. I mean, they're very complimentary, but they're really kind of, it's like action. And I seem to connect very well to people. And I really like talking to people. I like talking to people about things and all that,
Mm-hmm.
about their lives here, like there. And I like to talk to them about my stuff, and they like to talk to me about their stuff. The only conversations which I don't enjoy as much are like people that just go about me, and this is my stuff, and I'm just going to promote
Right.
it and not really hear you. And I'm like, come on, you know, let's just talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
And I
I mean,
think that's,
conversation's a two-way street.
yeah, like, oh, but I think people are sold this pitch like, oh, but you got to sell yourself. It's like, well, selling yourself is just talking to another person about your shit and
Mm-hmm.
listening to them when they talk about their shit. It's just a conversation. And people think they got to be a car salesman. It's like, you don't be a car salesman.
Right.
Defect
Right.
car salesman. You know, I mean, I just think of my pitch as this. It's like, okay, I want to go and pitch this, but I don't want to talk about this and get bored as fuck, you know, about stuff. Like, and talk to you and enjoy what I'm talking about rather than talking at you. And we laugh, and I've noticed when people laugh, they tend to be happier with it more. I know that sounds the weirdest thing, but it's just like, I just enjoy conversations with people. That's where I get more stuff done. And when you look at it in comics, they're really here to know you. They're here to know you as a creator. And yes, you have a story to tell. And yes, your work does speak for you. But I think a lot of people think that they have to be a car salesman and put on a persona. I think with the public, there's a certain importance to that. But, you're given 30 seconds at the very least to talk about yourself. You might as well make the most of it. Most people would pay money for that. And just get to know and connect with your fans. That's what you do.
Yeah, I think you sort of hit a good point, because being a comic book creator, it's not necessarily about the comics, but it's about the creator, right? So, I mean, how have you been successful in building your own sort of community?
I've been doing pretty good. I mean, right now it's kind of slow because I'm still recovering from surgery. I'm trying to figure out ways how to go and make an income while I do this. Like my Patreon, it got neglected for a little bit, but most understandably because I wasn't in the shape to do it. But I mean, I let them know. I put out a newsletter every monthly or bi-monthly. I made some adjustments, like for a while, like it was like sent from my list, and I didn't think about it until a subscriber finally wrote to me and said, hey, if you put in your line like directly to where they can email you, that would be easier. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, so I do listen from input from other people. So some people like, oh, okay, I have to do this. So I do that. And got it done. And now I get responses back. So the engagement's better. I think people, if they feel like they can engage with you, you can get that taken care of. That's one thing. I mean, I think everybody wants to feel special, like they're acknowledged by the creator themselves.
How are you able to sort of stay organized when it comes to the business side of your business?
I write lists of what I need to do. I have reminders that tell me what I need to do. I mean, I have people that give me suggestions a lot. Sometimes I write it down, but sometimes I'll deal with it. It has to be focus and go before I do it. And sometimes people might take that as procrastination. It's not. I mean, especially when I'm also recovering from a major surgery, I have to kind of keep in mind that that's what I have to do. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of weird because it's like, in some ways, like I don't really take it upon myself that I'm procrastinating, but I take it day by day what I need to do. But on top of that, I'll write down what I need to do. Like if I have something that's due by the 5th, right? I'm going to get that done by the 5th. Like, okay, but now that I have my health to consider, or my recovery, let's say, there are times where it's like, it's dependent on that too. So I just kind of do kind of like what I should do it right now. I kind of weigh out what I need to do. Like what's priority. Like Patreon, I try to do within the first 5 or 7 days. It got dragged out to 10 days, but I'm kind of like at this point now where it's like, okay, well, I already told my Patreon people, like, this is what's happening. I'll try to get that straightened out in the next few days. As long as you let people know they're okay. Like that's what I learned from my Kickstarter is that I gave people, I'll let you know if it gets later. And I think what a lot of artists do, or a lot of people on Kickstarter don't do, is that they don't really engage their audience in this way. They don't tell them when an update's happening. Like even one guy said, what I like about what you did is that I didn't feel like I was ghosted. Because I guess like sometimes once they get the money, they just drop off the planet and they send you the stuff. They don't kind of let you know what's going on. So that's why I just put up this thing like, when I was getting pins and I thought I was going to get them sooner, I said, okay, this is the tentative thing, but we'll see. I'm going to see how it is. And then like when they screwed up in the pins, or the pins got screwed up, the manufacturer told me, we can't send you the pins. This is not according to quality. I did let people know, even though it was in time, I still wanted to let them know. So they would understand that it's on its way, but it might take a few weeks longer or something. So let me give it this month. So at least people had an idea of where my workflow was going. And what I did is like, if I can do it now, I do it. Like for instance, like during the Kickstarter, like, okay, some people just ordered prints. So as I could kind of float the prints a little until the money came in from the Kickstarter, because prints are not that expensive initially anyway to invest in. So I got some prints, and then I went ahead and I sent it out to everybody that I could. They're inexpensive to make and ship overall. Some people don't want to not acknowledge it, but it is true. And so I sent it out, and so I staged it out, and then more order stuff got fulfilled, like more stuff, like, so if people ordered a print, I would send it out. If they ordered a print in the book, as soon as I got the books that came in, I would put it with the print, or I just send off the books. So I would go through it at a time. I would send, if I could fulfill the order completely.
Cool. And what about sort of your, it's also important to sort of connect with other creators too. I mean, because the few times I've seen you, you've been at the events where, like, people like Ryland Grant and, David Pepose were at.
Yeah. We talk. I mean, we like exchanged work and everything. So, it was good to like talk to them and let them know, like, I really like David Pepose's. I haven't seen Red Going to the Chapel yet. As I said, I'm kind of slow in reading new material just because of like my recovery and getting back on track. And just resting. But I do like David Pepose's Spencer and Locke. I have not yet read the second issue, the second graphic novel. I am looking forward to that, but I did read the first one, and I like, you come in again, you don't do it every time. It's annoying, but let them do their thing. But, sometimes like if somebody's looking at one of David's stuff and it's like for Spencer and Locke, I'll tell them like, I read it. It's really fun. Appropriate. I'm not going to do it with everything that David does. Because I'm sure after a while I'd be like, okay, shut the hell up. But no, there were a couple times. But I mean, like, you want to hear it from somebody else. It's not like, oh, I'm just pitching, but just like, oh, read this one. I really particularly recommend that one. I've read it, But, help each other out like that,
How many conventions do you usually go to a year?
Oh, shit, I haven't really counted. I would say at least 2 or 3 per month.
Oh, wow.
Well, 2 or 3 shows per month. So I'm guessing 36 right now. I mean, that take or give a little bit.
Dude,
of that number too.
That is a fucking bunch right there. I wasn't expecting you to say 36.
Yeah, right. But I mean, there's little shows.
Right.
Like I'm going to be at Bakersfield Comic Con this upcoming week. I got to start plugging for that. I don't know what table number I'm at, so hopefully I will know soon. And then I'm going to go to, it's called LA Cultural Traffic. It's a little art show. People have asked me to do Designer Con, but I really didn't feel physically up to it. But I did like going up to, what was it? So there's Designer Con. I don't know if I'll go. As I said, it might be a bit much for me physically, but I'm going to do LA Cultural Traffic. It's at Delicious Pizza, and I think they're affiliated with Delicious Vinyl. I think they are the same people that own Delicious Vinyl, affiliated with Delicious Vinyl. So Delicious Pizza, I will be there, and I will be with other artists.
Now, do you go to cons mostly in Southern California, or do you go abroad?
I go to mostly Southern California. That's where my budget is for the most part.
Right.
My parents still live up north, so if there's one in Northern California around the Bay Area, I will sometimes go up there.
Yeah.
But right now I'm just establishing more of a thing in LA. But we'll see. I mean, maybe next year I do plan to go to New York City Comic Con, not necessarily at a table, but just to be there.
Yeah, me too. I definitely want to check that out someday.
Yeah, like I think I got invited out there. I have a place to stay out there, so if that's the case, I'll just go out and hang out with a bunch of people and do the thing, and be an attendee. Because I mean, I think it's important to do both. Sometimes as a tabler you can do that, but as an attendee it would be helpful too.
Yeah, cool. Let's take a little break and we'll hit the thunder round really quick. I guess my first question is, seeing as how you're a movie major as well, or art and movies, right?
Yeah.
What 3 movies could you watch over and over and not ever get tired of?
I would say Akira. I really like Kill Bill.
Okay.
I don't know if that would count for 2 movies because it's 2 volumes.
Right.
I don't know. I like The Fifth Element. That's a cool.
Oh yeah, that's always a good one.
Yeah, but I mean, also like anything with a lot of guns and action. I mean, I could probably be like, people would probably consider me an asshole. I have fun issues with guns and action and beating each other up and shit. I like action movies. I used to watch that a lot with my dad, like Total Recall, like action movies, Total Recall, Predator. Predator's kind of an action movie. Terminator. Yeah. Terminator 2, I would say, really. I think it's one of the best in the series.
Have you seen the newest one yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't gotten. I'm terrible.
I haven't seen it yet either.
I heard it was good, and I heard it was like okay, like it's derivative, but I'm just like, okay, well, they changed the storyline. I mean, Genesis was kind of a
Yeah.
fun movie that I watched. I didn't take it seriously. It wasn't the best movie, but it was not a bad take on it. You know,
Did you get to meet Gabriel Luna when he stopped by Golden Apple?
you know what? It's funny. He was right by. He was talking to David Pepos. I didn't get to talk to him because I let David do his thing. And besides, he was interested in David's work, so it's not like I wanted to pull him over and stuff. I figure, and again, there's like a fine line between calling attention to your work and kind of hawking too much.
Sure.
So that's why I'm sort of like, it's kind of a judgment call with me in that instance. Like in that case, like I think Gabriel Luna, he was really focused on David's work.
Yeah.
So I just let David take the reins. Like sometimes you just got to let somebody take the reins in that particular moment. He seemed nice, Gabriel Luna, and I was glad for David that he bought it, and he's getting recognition for it. So, that's good. I'm happy for him. And I figured like this, it's like what I've learned in this business is like a no doesn't mean no, not right now. It doesn't necessarily mean not ever. Sometimes it does, but how you turn that into a not right now is you don't overly push people. Like you don't get harassing about it.
Sure.
Like you just kind of let it happen to you. Like there are times you hit them up and then a couple times you kind of touch base, but if it doesn't happen right now, just go with it. And then later on an opportunity will happen. Like
sure. I mean, sometimes you just got to play the long game, right?
Yeah, it's just like with Golden Apple. Like initially I wanted them to carry one of my other books, and that didn't happen. And it wasn't, but I didn't like get like into a shit mode and start insulting anybody because like that's the worst thing you can do, right? I mean, unless if somebody's really being completely disrespectful to you, I don't see the need for it, right? And even then, it's a judgment call, right? So I just let it be, and then they wanted to carry Demon Bitch and Golden Apple. Okay, it wasn't the same comic, but like it came true. I got shit selling a Golden Apple. It's just like sometimes you just got to wait for the right time.
If you could teleport to anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why did you pick that place?
I think I would like to go to Hungary and Japan. I've stopped over in Japan. I've been in Hungary, like especially Budapest, but I would like to go into Budapest again to really just fully explore everything. It's old style Europe. It's a lot of old things, but it's a different sort of era and it's virtually untouched, like through tons of history. So I'd like to do that. Japan, I just would like to explore it because I've just never done it myself. I've just never been in Japan in general. I would like to just really check it out and see how it is. Because I've only stopped over when I went to Korea. There's like even a canned food restaurant. I want to check that out. Yeah, like when you look at it, you're like, why would I go there for canned food? But I heard it's really actually good. Like you go there, you order it, you get the cans, and they'll warm it up for you. And it's actually nice. Like it's really good quality.
What kind of advice would you give to someone just starting out on their creative journey?
I would say follow advice, but do follow the advice that resonates with you. Work on something that you like working on. And don't be discouraged if the thing that you like doesn't take off right away. Sometimes it takes a little while for people to notice it. Just work on the stuff you like to work on that you feel is right for you. And then eventually you'll be noticed. Don't expect people to give you stuff right away or to, do you favors in terms of, like you got to like establish yourself in a reputation.
Any advice on the business side?
You just got to go and plan it out. Like figure out what you want to do. Like for the Kickstarter, I had to figure out, okay, exactly what I wanted to do. You got to figure out the real cost of stuff, right? And how much it would be. And then what you do is that you kind of say, okay, what's the realistic thing? Don't be afraid to talk to people about manufacturing or get like recommendations and all that and kind of look to the big picture things and then do what you need to do.
Any other creators that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh, I don't know. I think recently like Ryan Grant, I really am very grateful for the, opportunities he's presented me like to Golden Apple and to be on panels. I really enjoy the Kickstarter panel. I enjoy talking to people about it. What I think I want to give a shout out to Mike Wellman. He's given me a lot of really good opportunities and he's been there for me in terms of career and all that. Like he's a good person. Like for opportunities and stuff. He helps a lot of creators and artists, and you got to give him that. I think he's a really cool guy for doing that. Shout out to Lawrence, my friend in comics, and shout out to Jaime Hernandez and the Hernandez brothers for inspiring me to do to get into comics by real stories. Even though, like, when you look at Love and Rockets, a lot of it's fictional, like fantasy, but when you think about it, it's based on people and things, right? I like to give a shout out to Carlos Saldana, Burrito, being a really awesome creator. Johnny Ryan, just because he's like a guy that in the age of where everybody gets offended, he writes and draws the worst shit ever, and it's great. And I mean worse, like it's just funny as hell. Like, he's an enormously talented person. But yeah, if you check out his Instagram, Outlaw Scum Fudge, you'll see what's there on that. But it's just funny as fuck. Like, a lot of the stuff. I think he actually gives a lot of good shout outs to my friend Lawrence. He's a good guy. He's very nice.
Are you a full-time entrepreneur now, or do you have another job?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I did have like another job, or I went through jobs. That's why it's like when people say, well, I don't think I'm an artist. Am I any less of an artist if I have another line of work? I'm like, no. Sometimes you got to go and like pay the bills while you get your dream going on. That I don't dog on people that do that. I had to do it for a while. So, and then I just realized, I'd be happier like working for myself than anybody else. So that's just what I'm doing.
Thanks for coming on the show, Christie. Where can people find you online?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. They can go to www.horrortourstudios.com. I've got links to Demon Bitch, where you can buy my books, and where you can go and do all the things and find me on social media and all that, and sign up for my newsletter.